Hey, good morning, everyone. I see we've got quite a number of people that have joined. Dogoso, let me know, do we still need to wait for a few minutes or can we start?
We can proceed. Thanks.
Before I start, I'm going to hand over to you, Dogoso, in terms of the logistics.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's industry meeting. Just the housekeeping rules. All mics will be muted during the presentations, and if you have any questions, you can just pop them in the Q&A section. Our colleagues will try to answer them as you post them. Microphones will be enabled at the end for a short Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you. Morgan, I'm going to ask you to project the agenda, please. And while you do so, say hello to everyone. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning. We have quite a large meeting, and thank you for participating. Indeed, I see numbers keep increasing, so certainly it seems this is quite an important meeting. We had our last meeting about 3 months ago or so, and it was similarly well attended, and I think we had some good discussions there. In between, we've had working groups having their meetings, and last week we had the Captains of Industry meeting, which was equally, I think, successful from my view. Those who attended can determine whether it was or not. So we are really hoping again for a fruitful discussion today, and the agenda has been shared with yourselves, and we will be working through these matters. It's quite a jam-packed agenda as usual, and we're quite tight on time, and so please do put your questions in the chat. We've got the team in the background that will be addressing, responding to your questions. So welcome everyone to this meeting. And also just to provide, again, clarity that we've now established this Regulatory Technical Forum with the intention to make sure that we cover all the areas that we regulate. In the past, remember, we used to have PTG and ITG, which was deemed to be very focused on pharmaceuticals when we regulate a much wider range. And so far, I think it's going well. This is our second Regulatory Technical Forum. You will also note from the agenda itself that we are certainly covering all the areas that the regulator has oversight over. So that's on that one. And then in terms of the EOI for training, yeah, we didn't get a lot of response for this. We did publish it. Khonse, if you can just remind me on the chat, we extended it again, and really we solicit your support so that we can use these kind of model dossiers for training purposes. As we indicated, it would not only be for SAHPRA, but other regulators on the continent. So your support on this is really solicited. Okay, thank you. I'm now going to go straight into the details and of the agenda. And as I said, it's jam-packed, so let's go straight to it. And we're going to start with Kristalna just giving us some background on the survey that we did on marketed products. And then we'll have Portia on the ICH survey, and then we'll have Pratibha on BAU applications and variations. So I'm going to hand over to them in that order, please.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning to everyone. Just a very brief update on where we are with regards to looking at what's happening in the market. I think we've previously communicated at different forum during last year. Just the fact that SAHPRA had been looking at the amount of products that we've got in the register that is actually available in the market, whether private or public or exports, versus the amount we've got on the register that's actually not marketed and not available for transactional purposes at all. So I think we've previously just shared with everyone that the current survey that we did, both with some of our applicants, I mean, we had shared a request to share back your information in terms of these are your products, how many of them are you actively marketing or transacting with. And based on those responses, as well as some of the data sets that we looked at through IQVIA, we see that there's 52% of the products that's on our current medicine registration database that is in fact not transacted with either in private, public, or exports, or a combination of these markets. So for us, this obviously is a bit of a concern, specifically when we consider the amount of applications that we currently have got in the registration pipeline. I think for SAHPRA specifically, as we have defined resource constraints, it is important that we use the available resources in a very rational way. And therefore, if we see that 52% of the products that we or applications that we receive, we review, we eventually then also register, these in fact do not reach the market, it is concerning, as we are currently inundated with applications that still requires review and processing from our side. So it does beg the question in terms of just the rational use of resources and also what those resources in fact then do, and whether or not that actually adds value to enabling access to safe, quality, and efficacious medicine. So we have, from that preliminary survey, also undertaken further analysis. So we ran a procurement process. We appointed a service provider to assist us with collecting very detailed information for the past 5 years, being then 2019 to end of 2023, so that we could assess the transactions over those 5 years and make a more informed decision as to the trends that we are seeing, to also help us derive a new approach to dealing with these large volumes of applications that we receive. I think there are some suggestions that's been flighted by some of the industry colleagues that has come forth in terms of, what kind of information we could possibly share across the table, to try and also assist us to assist you in turn, to make sure that we have got resources available and resources are used in a rational way, and that we all at the end of the day achieve the ultimate aim, which is enabling then access to health products within the South African sector. So we have had a look at the analysis and the data summary and conclusions that our service provider has been able to present back to us this past week. And as a team, we are now formulating, I think, our proposed approach. And this again will go through 1 or 2 iterations internally. And the intention would be through the month of November to also then publish this for your comment. So it is something that I think we probably would be able to put a pin in quite soon, and obviously then also share a lot more information with you. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been a very informative exercise for us, and I'm sure as we then get to the November stage, sharing that information and agreeing on next steps in terms of making sure that we can work in a collaborative way to try and also then support the regulator so that we actually do what we want to do, which is, as I said, enabling access to safe, quality, and efficacious medicines. Thanks, Chair. I will pause here.
Thank you, Christina. I see there's a bit of confusion on Dogozo, assist us, do we use the chat platform or the Q&A?
The Q&A is not visible on my end, so that's why I enabled the chat instead.
Yeah, I also can't. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're going to use the chat platform.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So everyone just man the questions on the chat platform. And no, there was no presentation. We've agreed that we will have before end of the year a detailed kind of approach that we will then share with yourselves. So Christina was just kind of giving you feedback on where we are. Okay, so no presentation was to be displayed. Okay. All right, so Christina, also note the questions that are in the chat. You can respond to those. Please do respond to those. Let me just see if there's anything urgent. There's questions about the FTP portal, etc. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. If you could just hold on that one, or the team can just respond to that on the chat platform. Okay, we'll come to the submissions, etc. Mukona, let's just see the agenda again. I think Portia is next. Mukona, have we not seen the agenda? Okay, Portia, please. Portia, can you hear us? I can't see. Okay, Portia's here. She's muted. All right, let's move to Pratiba. Over
here,
to
Chair.
you. Oh,
I've
okay,
been
go
talking
ahead.
to myself. I'm so sorry. I have prepared some slides just to give the update with regards to the ICH surveys that was conducted. I'll try and share the slides. Let me here. Okay, I'm not sure if everyone can see the slides that I've projected. I'll just put it in slide mode. Chair, are the
Yeah, I
slides
see you've
visible?
got 26 slides, Portia. You're
No,
gonna
no,
have to
no,
move
it's
very,
not.
very fast.
No, it's not chair. The others are like I won't be talking to. I'm not sure if is this in the slide mode, chair?
Yeah, we can see
Yeah,
it.
I will fly. Thank you. Yes, as I've indicated, I'll just be talking to the ICH guideline survey result that was conducted. I'm glad my colleague Silva at the last RTF meeting did share, what's required for, regulators and also countries to be members of the, ICH. And she also, provided the background with regards to what ICH is and also the other surveys that were done in the previous years. That was in 2019 and also 2021. So currently we are an observer, and as an observer, for us to obtain full membership, we're required to attend at least 3 consecutive ICH meetings. And we also need to be participating in at least 2 ICH working groups, and also need to demonstrate the implementation of at least Tier 1 guidelines. That is Q1 stability guideline, Q7, and E6 for GCP. And we also need to be providing regular feedback with regards to our progress with regards to implementation of these guidelines, and also ICH trainings to support understanding and implementation of the guidelines. So this survey that was done, the goal of that was just to inform the management committee of the ICH at the meeting that was held in June 2024. To support observers to confirm membership eligibility criteria, and also to support ICH training work, and also advance the ICH mission of making sure that there's regulatory harmonization on implementation of these guidelines, and provide ICH members information or data for internal consideration with regards to all their members. So the next slide will talk to Why is can you see the next slide? I'm trying to move to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. So the survey was conducted by CIRS. I won't go through that information, as this was also provided by my colleagues in the last meeting, and the report was presented at the ICH meeting in June 2024 at the ICH Assembly meeting in Japan. So the study scope of this survey included, the non-founding and non-standing regulatory members. Those ones were assessed for Tier 2 and Tier 3 guidelines, and then the number of guidelines that they were assessed on for Tier 2 was 5, and then for Tier 3 was 56, were 56 guidelines. And for founding and standing regulatory members, they were assessed on Tier 3, and this was selected new guidelines only, and those were 7 guidelines. And for observers, including us, they were assessed on Tier 1, and the number of guidelines that were assessed on were 3. And these are the guidelines: Q1 stability guidelines, and then Q7, that is good manufacturing practice guideline for active pharmaceutical ingredients, and also the E6 R2 guideline, that is the GCP, good clinical practice. So the study scope, Tier 1 guidelines, as I've indicated, this is where I'll just put more emphasis on as we are presenting the results that we got for our country in our regulatory authority. So for Tier 1 and Tier 2, there was a full questionnaire that was shared, and then it was assessing guideline implementation, whether do we have any modifications to those guidelines, and also adherence to implementation, and if we needed to have supporting evidence to that. That is all the respondents that participated in the survey. So, so as I've indicated, I'll just come to this slide just to indicate that the questionnaire looked at the implementation status and also the adequacy of implementations, and if there are any modification that needed to be indicated and also have motivated for. And then lastly, the adherence to these guidelines. So now, when we look at the questionnaire for Tier 1 guidelines for observers and Tier 2 guidelines, this is just the way how the guideline, the questionnaire was designed. So firstly, you will need to indicate whether the guideline was implemented. If yes, implemented, not implemented, then there will be whether they will test for adequacy of implementation, that is whether there's any modification conducted. And then if there's no implementation or it's just in process for implementation, then that will be the final, and then comment, and then you enter the respondent information. And when it comes to adequacy of implementation, they will want to know whether did you implement this, did you unmodify the guidelines, you implemented the guidelines as is, or did you make any modification? So if there were any modification, you will just indicate and also provide rationale for that, and then the final comment. So when we're looking at the unmodified, then the next step will be checking adherence to guideline. And also if there's a yes, then is a final comment, and that talks to adequately implemented and adhered to. And with regards to, where there were modifications, then they will also check adherence, the yes, and then otherwise, then it will be adequately implemented and adhered to. And then if there's no, then they'll need to have rationale and, provided, and that will be the final comment. And then, that goes to that. And then now, with regards to the results that we have received following that questionnaire, on top, you'll see the first top row, it talks to SAHPRA's response to these guidelines, Q1, Q7, and E6, R2. And then the bottom one refers to the aggregate company response for our authority. And from the top, you can see SAHPRA's responses was that all guidelines were implemented. And then when we look at the company or industry response, there has been more like misalignment. We've got majority saying that there has been implementation, and then others, they say they're in the process. It's the process of implementation, and the others' response was that these guidelines were not implemented. When it comes to the question that talks to whether the guidelines, were there any modification to the guideline, and the authority indicated no, those were unmodified. And also we've got majority of the applicant that says no, they were not modified. And then just a small number that indicates that there has been modification. So with that questionnaire, there was follow-up to say if there's been modification, were this justified? And the industry, those that responded that there were modification, indicated that there was, justification. So with regards to inadequate implementation, there are no results there because the industry indicated that they are in progress, and so forth. Yeah, and then those that indicated that there isn't anyone, from the previous slide. So with regards to adherence status, we indicated that yes, all these guidelines are being adhered to. And then from the industry side for Q1, we were all aligned with that we all adhering to these guidelines. And then for E6 R2 guideline, also SAHPRA and the industry were aligned. The only issue or concern, it's where we see with regards to Q7, but the responses were that it's too early to assess adherence. That is the response that came from industry. And then now we come to the conclusion. What we have observed is that we have aligned, industry and SAHPRA aligned with regards to Q1 and E6 guidelines, and we just observed a misalignment with regards to adherence to Q7 guidelines. And we like to encourage our local manufacturers to respond to questionnaires. That is when shared. And what we will continuously do is to engage industry through our webinars, and then also working group meetings, and also this platform on Q7 guidelines, because this is where we're seeing a gap that we'll need to make sure that we are aligned. As my last point is that it is important that industry and the regulator are in alignment when it comes to implementation and adherence to ICH guidelines. So, Chair, I tried to fly. That is my last slide. And before I get off the floor, I'd like to get the senior managers for CEM if they've got any additional input with regards to the E6 guideline, good clinical practice guideline, and the senior manager for Inspectorate and Regulatory Compliance for Q7, and also a senior manager for Pharmaceutical Evaluation Management with regards to Q1 guidelines. Thank you, Chair. I'll conclude. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any comments, Silverani, Dafang, Dion?
I'll go. Thank you, Dr. Tumi. I'll go first in terms of ICH Q7. So ICH Q7 is the guideline for the manufacture of active pharmaceutical ingredients. And I think it's just important for the industry to note that the ICH Q7 guideline is the same as the PICS guideline for GMP for manufacture of APIs. So it is in effect the same guideline that we have implemented here in South Africa, and we also require APIs to be manufactured according to ICH Q7, which is the same as the PICS guideline for APIs. So just to eliminate any confusion about how ICH Q7 fits in with the GMP that we require as SAHPRA. Thank you.
Okay, Dafang?
Thanks, Chair. There seems to be alignment, and yeah, I have no further comments on the issue. Thanks.
Okay, Silverani?
Thanks, Chair. And I'd like to also express thanks to the industry with respect to the responses on the Q1, that's the stability guidelines. And also there's elements of Q7, which is part of assessment. So that's the API intermediate and starting materials. And these are elements that we do review, as many of you do know, that we request for the API restricted part, and it's part of the impurity profiles that we derive from knowing what's in the starting materials and the intermediates. So when responding, you should also bear that in mind. I think there may have been a misunderstanding on how the questionnaire has been designed, but essentially we have been aligned, and if you look at our guidelines, we are aligned with the ICH requirements. And as the CROs indicated, we will be constantly engaging with you through the working groups and also webinars where we can share information. Remember, this is a mutual agreement between the industry and the regulator that we are aligned and we are conforming with the requirements of the ICH. Thanks. I think that's all from my side. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right. Please look out for then the questions on the chat. I see there's a few that are being responded to, so we'll proceed in that way. I'm just quickly going through and seeing if there's anything urgent that the team can then just work through this. There's a question on the Act, and I think we did share that we are busy with the project to review the Act, and there will be an engagement with industry as stakeholders. So, yeah, that will certainly come. The Minister is aware of this project. It's quite a massive project, so we won't cover it today, as we're still having quite a lot of internal stakeholder engagements. But yeah, it's coming and we will be engaging with you. Okay, I'm gonna ask that Pratibha, you then you present. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'll be taking you through stats for BAU, new registration, as well as variations. Right, so we are currently receiving applications in Group 20. The estimated approval timelines, just to support with planning. In industry, estimated approval timelines are based on a screening timeline, which is as yet unquantified, as well as an evaluation timeline, which is 360 working days. An overview of new chemical entities, and I'll start with Group 8. 4 applications received between April 2021 and June 2021. The estimated approval is September 2023. We are currently 90% finalized in this group. For Group 9 applications, and that is for applications received between July 2021 and September 2021, with an estimated approval of December 2023, we are currently 97% finalized. In Group 11, for applications received between January 2022 and March 2022, with an estimated approval of June 2024, we are currently 43% finalized. And in Group 12, for applications received between April 2022 and June 2022, with an estimated approval of September 2024, we are presently 17% finalized. On to generics. For the Group 20 applications that we are currently receiving, kindly note that the estimated approval timelines are being calculated based on screening, again unquantified, with an evaluation timeline as well of 250 working days. An overview of the generics and how they are progressing. Group 6 received between October 2020 and December 2020 with an estimated approval of January 2022. We are currently 96% finalized. In Group 7, received between January 2021 and March 2021 with an estimated approval of April 2022, we are presently 97% finalized. Group 8 received between April 2021 and June 2021 with an estimated approval of July 2022. We are currently 95% finalized. Group 9 received between July 2021 and September 2021 with an estimated approval of October 2022. We are 84% finalized. Group 10 received between October 2021 and December 2021 with an estimated approval of January 2023. We are 34% finalized. Group 11 received between January 2022 and March 2022 with an estimated approval of April 2023. We are 12% finalized. In Group 12, received between April 2022 and June 2022 with an estimated approval of July 2023. We are 17% finalized. Group 13 received between July 2022 and September 2022 with an estimated approval of October 2023, we are 15% finalized. Group 14 received between October 2022 and December 2022 with an estimated approval of January 2024, we are 20% finalized. Group 15 received between January 2023 and March 2023 with an estimated approval of April 2024, we are 14% finalized. Group 16 received between April 2023 and June 2023 with an estimated approval of July 2024. We are 9% finalized. On to biologicals, the Group 20s, which have been received between April 24 and June 2024, are tracking a September 2025 estimated approval timeline. And as mentioned, estimated approval timelines are based on a screening timeline plus an evaluation timeline. Screening is as yet unquantified. The evaluation timeline is 360 working days. An overview of biologics, Group 8, received between April 2021 and June 2021 with an estimated approval of September 2022. We are 55% finalized. Group 12 received between April 2022 and June 2022 with an estimated approval of September 2023, we are 27% finalized. Group 13 received between July 2022 and September 2022 with an estimated approval of December 2023. We have a 0% finalization. Group 14 received between October 2022 and December 2022 with a March 2024 estimated approval. We are at 0%. Finalization. Group 15 received between January 2023 and March 2023 with a July 2024 approval timeline. We are at 0% finalization. Right, on to biosimilars. Just to mention that estimated approval timelines on biosimilars are based on screening and an evaluation timeline of 360 working days. An overview, and we start with Group 8, received between April 2021 and June 2021 with an estimated approval of September 2022. We are 92% finalized. Group 9 received between July 2021 and September 2021 with an estimated approval of December 2022. We are 19% finalized. Group 10 received between October 2021 and December 2021 with a March 2023 approval. We are 50% finalized. Group 13 received between July 2022 and September 2022 with an estimated approval of December 2023. We are 38% finalized. And Group 15, which has been received between January 2023 and March 2023 with an estimated approval of July 2024, we are at 0% finalization. On to a quick renewals update. We are currently receiving applications in phase 2, quarter 3. With regards to approvals, we have received 16 approvals for phase 1, quarter 1, 3 approvals for phase 1, quarter 3, and 2 approvals in phase 1, quarter 4. All phase 2, quarter 1, and quarter 2 applications are in evaluation. Variations for Inspectorate. For the type 1 variations in the revenue subsection of 2022 to 2023, we received 712 applications, of which 651 were completed and 61 are outstanding. For the revenue subsection of 2023 to 2024, we received a total of 1,136 applications, of which 10 are completed, and we have 1,126 outstanding. For type 2 variations, for the revenue subsection of 2023 to 2024, we received 61 applications, of which 59 have been processed and 2 still to be processed. In 2024-2025, for the period April, May, and June, we received 68 applications, of which we have not processed any, and 68 still to be processed. PEM, post-registration updates. From the quality type 1 applications received via the FTP process, type 1B, we have received a total of 770 applications. 89 have been allocated and are in process, and this could be allocation in primary review, peer review, or quality assurance stage. We have evaluated 576 applications, and 105 have been completed. Under completed, applicants have either received a communication of feedback from the portal or an approval letter, query letter. And the above do not take into account individual type 1 changes within multiple submission applications. For quality type 1 applications received via the DVP process, and this includes type 1A and type 1B, we have received a total of 324 applications. 60 are in process, 167 are still to be evaluated, and 97 have been completed. By completed, we mean approved or a query has been sent. For quality variations type 2, we have received a total of 180 applications. 56 have been allocated, 25 are still to be evaluated, and 99 have been completed. Completed again means approved or query sent. The above do not count individual type 2 changes within multiple submission applications. Currently, the average timeline for completing type 2 applications is 150 to 180 working days from the date that the unit is notified. For clinical evaluation variations, type 1 variations, we have received a total of 894 applications, of which 423 have been processed, and the output is 47%. For type 2 variations, we have received a total of 162 applications, of which 45 have been processed, and the output is 28%. For responses, we have received a total of 118 applications, of which 50 have been processed at an output of 42%. Finally, the biological medicines unit update. We have a total of 156 type 2 applications, 189 type 1B applications, 137 type 1A applications, and 97 response applications. And these are in various stages of finalization, peer review, pending allocation, primary review. And the final slide for applications received between May, June, and July 2024 for biologics. For type 2, we have received 24 applications. Type 1Bs, 18 applications. Type 1A, 17 applications. And 3 response applications. Thank you. That brings me to the end of the BAU update.
Thank you, Pratibha. I see there's been lots of questions, but those are being responded to. So we will then, also if you can, now that you're done presenting, just look at those and then respond to them. I don't know if any of the SAHPRA team members who've been responding to questions have got anything they want to highlight. Okay. I think we'll proceed. There's a lot more detail that gets discussed at the working group. I see one of the questions that's asked is what steps are we taking to address this backlog that the note has built over time, and this is certainly one thing that keeps me awake. And I can just reshare those with you, because we touched on this again at the meeting last week. An important element here, and let me start with those older ones where we're about 90% plus completed. And this is why I'm asking industry to work with us here, because we're sitting with extensions that are way beyond the timeframes. There's some of these where there's 1 application, 2 application, 5, where we're battling with industry. And I've said to the team, we need to put a peg in the sand now and just reject those, because it makes us look bad. That we've got these pending applications for years when we have the respective applicants that are just taking us back and forth. So we will be a lot firmer going forward with not meeting the timeframes for response to queries. And I've said to the team, we have to do this now, because it's completely unacceptable that you'll have an applicant asking for an extension of more than 6 months to a year. Okay, so we're going to be a lot firm on that. The second point is around reliance. I've asked the team to strengthen our reliance processes. I do believe that there's a lot of value we can derive from that. Again, we have published the reliance guideline, wherein we've clearly indicated what it is that we require. So again, we need industry to make sure that you submit to us the information required. For me, I don't get it why we have a backlog with new chemical entities, where in essence we should be, I wouldn't say easily applying reliance, but it should be easier for us to apply reliance there. And when you look into the details of each of the applications, we need to work better with industry. I think there's there is a contribution certainly by industry in the nature of applications that we get that leads to us having a backlog. Yes, we will own the fact that we do have to drive a lot of operational efficiencies, but we cannot do that alone. We have to make sure that we work well with industry, and it's the same message that I shared last week, that we have to work together here. So reliance is a critical lever for us that we'll be optimizing. The second one is around some operational efficiencies. We saw that when we applied risk-based assessments, we did see some improved throughput. So I've asked the team to look at that and give me a report on that and how we will continue to do that. Where again, we saw that we were able to finalize some of the applications in good time, is where we had a very tight internal coordination mechanism. So there's a better, efficient way that we can work, that HPA is driving for us, but also in terms of how we do the assessments and reviews in terms of reliance and risk-based assessments is two of the levers. But then again, we need you as industry to address the queries in the required timeframes. So those are some of the interventions that we will be implementing. And obviously, once we're settled with digitization, we do hope that, particularly for variations, we'll start to see a better throughput with those. Okay, so I thought I'll just speak to that one at a high level. I see my team is responding to quite a lot of these as it is. Okay, so yeah, we will continue to, again, in the spirit of transparency, we will then continue to communicate with you on how we're progressing on these. Okay, and what we could do, Pratibha, is So in the next meeting that we'll have in 3 months' time, you can then say, you know, as at today, this is where we were, which is your slide today, and then you can show the progress that we would have made when we come back in the next meeting. Okay, thank you. I see Silverani wants to comment.
Thanks, Chair. So one of the things that we have done was do an API workshop on the 28th of June, which we hope would address some of the challenges that we experience and is causing some backlogs on items that is allocated for review. And those are related to the fact that APIMFs are not submitted. So when the review is taking place, we then have to request that the APIMF holder submit the restricted part, and that delays. So if the applicants, when they are submitting, have already notified the APIMF manufacturer to submit the APIMF and link it to the application number, that will enable us to already have the APIMF available for assessment, rather than to come to the assessment and then discover that now we need the APIMF restricted part for review. So that also takes some time, because the APIMF manufacturer will also respond later than the allocated 30-day timeline. So this does create a challenge in terms of timelines and delays in the review process. Thanks.
Silverani, I don't know if you could talk to whether, and I know that this has come up before, and happy if you guys choose to discuss it in your working group on applying reliance for variations. And maybe if you and Doslan can comment, Doslan, if you can comment after Silverani.
Yes, we have discussed this and also included information with respect to reliance on variations. And the big challenge with that is many of the applications that we have already approved have not been through a reliance process. The second thing is where we have reliance applied. So in cases where you're looking at WHO, PQ, or the CRP process reliances, the variations for those reliance mechanisms can be accepted, provided it is also through the WHO. So if our reliance mechanism was WHO approval, then you try to bring in a variation that was approved outside of that process, then it's not acceptable. And that's just making sure that we have consistency in the dossier that has been provided, and that it is aligned with WHO processes. And they have also indicated clearly that once you have adopted that process, that you continue using their mechanism of, for instance, variations and so on. And I think industry wants to sort of use different hybrid approaches, and we maintain that if we have applied reliance to a dossier at the time of registration, then that would be the same reliance agency that you would use reliance for those variations. So there are provisions under which those variations are accepted in terms of reliance. So I think, the industry and also SAHPRA has to apply itself when it comes to these reliance applications. So it's not something that we can just do if we found there's an application that has been approved, a variation that has been approved, and the application initially sent was not the same reference regulatory agency, then the dossiers are not aligned, because we do a verification of sameness when we do reliance. So the intention is to maintain the sameness throughout the life cycle of the dossier if we are getting variations on using reliance. I think that's essentially where there are challenges regarding this. Thanks.
Yeah, and maybe we should just put out and I know in the reliance guideline, we do have a section around where we talk on variations. So just look at that and maybe see if we can make it a lot more explicit and just address the why. But I know there is a section on that in the reliance guidelines. So let's just look in terms of whether, we can firm it up a bit for better clarity. Okay. Dr. Lang, any comments from you, and then we'll move. I see. So I think do that, and then do have this conversation. Again, I'm seeing questions around type 1, type B, and why there's a need for a letter from PM and etc. before Inspectorate can do the amendment. I know this question came up about last year sometime. Again, so just revisit these in your working groups and make sure that there's alignment. And I think where we're getting repeated or similar questions being asked, let's just clarify these in our guidelines, because then we don't have to go back to it again, because I'm seeing a lot that we have dealt with in the past continues to come back. So we just need to put that in writing and say, here's a position that we've taken and proceed like that. Dr. Lang, any reflections from you? And then we'll move to Alice.
Thanks, Chair. Just a quick reflection. With clinical, unfortunately, reliance, cannot be applied uniformly. So the very task of determining which one can be amenable to reliance involves evaluation in the first place. We do have a number of variables that prevent us from, relying on applications, let's say, from Europe or from America, because of mainly Europe, because of demographics, and Europe and America epidemiology and clinical practice. So we are constantly required to adjust whatever that we receive, to serve our particular demographics. And I think that's what clinical due diligence would require of us. It's easier with generics, because we use internal reliance, and to some extent NCEs, because we get the primary data and we are able to tweak our recommendations. But with variations, it's a bit of an issue, and it's something that we need to come up with different strategies for. I did have a discussion with the unit after the performance performance results that we got for the annual report and AOP report, and we are mulling over a number of tactics, a risk-based approach, and I'm not quite sure if Lulega wants to comment in terms of how that is going. Stratifying type 1s, for instance, in terms of low risk and high risk, so that the low risk can be put aside, so that more attention is put on those type 1s that tend to be evaluated, let's say, after 67 days, only to find that a recommendation is necessary. And I understand that's quite disruptive for industry, and it's something that we need to put in place tactics to avoid as much as possible. And with type 2s, yes, the conditions that I have described obtain because of our different healthcare environment, epidemiological environment, clinical practice environment, and the capacity of our healthcare system to mitigate some of the variations that we see in terms of safety and efficacy. For instance, closer monitoring of side effects at the point of care. So we tend to be a little bit conservative because of that fact, and there's not much we can do. That's what clinical safety and efficacy due diligence requires of us. Yeah, but I'm sure we'll find a solution. I don't know if Luleka wants to add in terms of the strategies that I've put in place, whether there have been any changes in the past month or two. Thanks.
Okay. Luleka, and then we're going to proceed.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Well, in terms of the strategies, they are working, but I think our vision is to implement it when we actually have a full portal that is in place. And these are the discussions we've been having with the COO to say that what kind of variations can we sort of apply the risk-based approach on, and then perhaps look at the ones that we feel it's a bit risky for us to not look at entirely. And we've upgraded certain variations, I think, yeah, but that is something that we'll be implementing in the near future when the portal is fully functional. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think you handle this and share more in your working group then. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Alice, please. I see we're tight on time. Alice, please.
So thank you, Chair. Alice is off sick, and I will then share the feedbacks for the veterinary medicine. I'll just try and share my slides. I hope you are able to see my slides. I'll just put it in slide mode.
Yes, you can see them.
Okay. So the first item is autogenous vaccine medicines regulation for veterinary. So just to quickly go through the definition of it, it's a biological manufactured from a microorganism isolated from animals, which the attending veterinarian believes is the causative agent of the disease affecting the herd and is used for the treatment of animals in that same locality. This is versus the commercial vaccine, which is basically an application that's submitted for registration, and it's then approved in terms of quality, safety, and efficacy. And this, of course, based on registration, can be distributed widely. Currently, we have a draft guideline that has been put together, and this will be discussed tomorrow at the Veterinary Technical Advisory Committee meeting. And it will then serve at a SAHPRA policy meeting after that, and of which it will then be published for industry to comment. And this we're anticipating around early September for the autogenous vaccines. The second item that I'm going to talk to is the harmonization in the initiatives in veterinary medicine regulation. So we've been focusing a lot on harmonization on orthodox medicines and for human use and not necessarily for veterinary medicines, but there has been a lot of work going on the veterinary side. We have the veterinary Zazibona initiative. And of course, that was the same principle to reduce timelines for registration of veterinary medicinal products, applying reliance as risk-based approaches in the review pathways, and of course, with the application of the VICH guidelines. That's also to ensure that we sufficiently utilize the available SADC regional resources. So expertise within the region is being used for these assessments. And I think it works quite well in the sense that with veterinary field, there's a wide variety of species, and, you know, the specializations are difficult to find. Also, it is for the availability of, as we would always emphasize, safe, effective, and quality medicines within the region, improving animal health and public health. So it's a regional approach and overall view of ensuring good regulatory practices for veterinary medicines in the region. So the joint assessments for Zazibona has already started. There has been 2-week meetings. Currently, they're waiting for the applicants to respond to the technical screening queries. Some challenges that they've experienced is that the applications, some of them that have been submitted are substandard. So it does delay the process quite a bit. Applicants would obviously require training on the guidelines and the technical requirements, and I think this will probably enhance or improve the submissions that are made. Efficacy data is unavailable for all medicines, and I think this is the challenge faced by most agencies, and there needs to be an agreement on what data set or information is acceptable for all the NRAs in the region in order to support the efficacy of these old medicines. In terms of the VICH harmonization initiatives, South Africa is a VICH member, and we are participating in the following technical expert working groups. So the pharmacovigilance working group, the Vet Global Reference Dossier, the Bioequivalence Biowaiver Working Group, and stability of medicated premixes. So in terms of the regulations of antimicrobials in South Africa, the progress that has been made so far, there has been discussions on antimicrobial resistance and, the public health threat of on the over-the-counter sales of antimicrobials. And of course, this has been a challenge for veterinary medicine for many years. We have then been in engagement with a discussion on this matter with the Minister of Health. And the Minister of Health has recommended a way forward, and it would require meeting Minister of Agriculture. We have requested a meeting, and we're still awaiting a date from that office. And I think that's all I have for the updates on the veterinary. Thank you. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Silverani. Just want to see if there's pressing comments on the. I'm not seeing anything pressing on this, but again, at the end, colleagues, as indicated, we'll open up the platform for any other questions. Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks, Silverani. And then I see we're already getting questions on complementary medicines. Kaiser, over to you. And I hope you've been looking at the questions and you can already speak to some of these when you give updates, please. Kaiser?
Thank you, Chair.
Is it also not around?
Kaiser's on leave, but Robert Mamarlo will be talking to the updates on the regulations. Over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Silva. Thank you, Chair. Good morning to everyone. Basically, in terms of the regulations, the latest update is just that the work that the Complementary Medicines Committee did, the recommendations were made, they were considered by the legal division of SAHPRA, and these regulations ultimately were submitted to the Minister of Health. At this stage, I think any new updates will be informed by the Minister of Health. So that's the update when it comes to complementary medicines regulations. And with respect to the roadmap, it will be informed by publication of the regulations, the timelines of which we don't have at the moment. That's a ministerial prerogative. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And then we did discuss at the meeting last week that we'll have a day-long workshop on complementary medicines that will happen before end of the calendar year. So a lot will be discussed then. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So Robert Soberani, just look out for questions on the chat.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so there's a question here about what can we anticipate? So before the workshop, we will share an agenda so that you know what will be targeted. And in that agenda, we will indicate what we expect for industry to prepare for us. Okay, so you'll get communication. Sabrani, can I get a date so that we can issue communication by next week at the latest, please? Okay, so yeah, that will happen.
Chair, I think maybe one of the outcomes is that we need to know when you have submitted to Minister so that we can finalize a date and also for some of the members. So I think we are negotiating that, but we obviously need your office feedback on that.
Yeah, no, let's chat just internally. Thank you. So we'll have that. So we'll park CAMS for now. And then the next one is Inspectorate and Regulatory Compliance.
Morning. Just getting my presentation ready. Everybody see my screen?
Not yet, but it looks like something is coming. Yeah, there we go. We can see it.
Okay. So I'm just going to be giving an update from regulatory compliance on two subjects, or two topics today. The first topic is going to be on substandard and falsified medicines. It's quite an important topic. And last time I did give some information or update to the RTF, but I just thought, it's important for us again to go through the definitions of what is substandard, what is falsified, and what is unregistered or unlicensed, so that the industry is aware and we get these definitions in our way of thinking. So substandard refers to something being out of specification. So these are products that are authorized medical products that fail to meet either the quality standards or specifications or both. And when it comes to falsified, these are products that are deliberately or fraudulently, they misrepresent their identity, composition, or source. Now, I know a lot of us still refer to counterfeit. In our regulatory space, we now refer to these as falsified because there is a slight difference between counterfeit and falsified. When it comes to unregistered or unlicensed products, this is pretty standard to understand. These are products that we have, as the National Regulatory Authority, have not approved, and they haven't gone under any evaluation or approval by us. Now, the mechanisms that we use to prevent, detect, and respond to substandard and or unauthorized medical products. There was a question in the chat about what are the strategies that we use. These are that's the implementation of SAHPRA presence at the ports of entry to start control or regulation of the supply chain from that point, then regulation of the supply chain throughout the supply chain, post-market surveillance, sampling and testing, the monitoring of advertising and promotion activities, especially the internet, investigation of contraventions, recalls and withdrawals, seizures and distractions, awareness and education, collaboration with other stakeholders in our pharmaceutical crime forum, regional and global cooperation or collaboration and information sharing, and participation in the WHO member state mechanism for SF products. Now, the progress that we've made as SAHPRA, even though we do have those mechanisms, we've initiated steps with the WHO towards a pilot for the implementation of a national action plan for SF medicines. And this national action plan is a multi-sector, multi-actor plan. And we're using the draft handbook that has been devised by the WHO, and we are piloting that in South Africa, and we've initiated the steps towards that. And due to the success of the previous webinar held, another webinar will be coming up and will be hosted soon to increase awareness and detection on prevention, detection, and response. education on prevention, detection, and response to SF and unauthorized medicines. Now, last time I explained to the industry what can the industry do in this fight. And the first point is to adhere to the guidelines that control our legal supply chain. If we adhere to the guidelines that control the legal supply chain and we have oversight over that, then we can prevent SF medicines and unauthorized medicines entering the legal supply chain. SAHPRA also has a whistleblower tab. It's under Contact Us on the SAHPRA website, and you can lodge a complaint relating to medicine and medical devices on that website. I know some industry partners have had some concerns about the size of the attachments, and it's something I will take up with our comms unit. That was very recent, but that is where you can lay a complaint. And if you aren't able to provide us with all the information, you can email the regulatory compliance unit and provide that information. Now, what has been the impact of having such a mechanism for reporting this? We've seen an increased reporting of contraventions over the last 4 years, and this points to an increased awareness of reporting of contraventions, which includes unauthorized or SF medical products. And I'd like to thank the industry for their contribution to not only the awareness, but also to the reporting. As you can see, we've really increased our number of investigations logged per year over the last 4 years, and it's keeping us quite busy. Just an update in terms of post-market surveillance, just to explain to the industry again, what is post-market surveillance and how do we do it? It's a risk-based plan. It's based on public health need. It's based on the product, and it's based on the facilities as to where we're going to go and sample products for this post-market surveillance. The plan includes both private and public sector, and we can sample from manufacturing, importing, to wholesaling, to dispensing level. Not only do we do the sampling, we review the products for compliance to regulations, and then we test the products. And it provides us with a picture of how products are controlled in the supply chain and how we prevent substandard and falsified medicines in the legal supply chain. We've recently concluded and signed off a post-market surveillance report for 2022-2023. And that will be published soon on the SAHPRA website. But just to give you a short overview of what we found in 2022-2023. So for this post-market surveillance plan, we focused on priority therapeutic classes such as tuberculostatics, antiviral agents, specifically the ARVs, oral hypoglycemic agents, antihypertensive medicines, and thyroid preparations. We retrieved 26 samples and we subjected them to review in terms of our regulations for labeling PI and PIL. Only 19 of those samples, which is 5 out of 26, complied with requirements for labeling PI and PIL. Of the 81%, which is 21 out of 26, and this is a concern for us as SAHPRA, only 31%, or there were 31% non-conformances to label requirements. There were 65% non-conformances to PI requirements and 77 non-conformances to PIL requirements. And this is just a breakdown of the number of contraventions we found per product category in terms of regulation 10, 11, and 12, just to give the industry an idea of what we found, but this will all be detailed in the report that will be published on our website. In terms of this analytical testing, we did analytical testing of the samples we found or we picked up in 2022-2023, and this was performed by a WHO pre-qualified laboratory appointed by SAHPRA. The tests we conducted were appearance, identification, assay, and disintegration. All the collected samples passed the ID tests. The disintegration tests also passed, and all samples subjected to assay testing also complied with the parameters. In terms of our post-market surveillance plan for 2022-2023, we've identified for this year 5 APIs. So far, we've collected 14 samples out of 123 samples that were planned. Obviously, we understand that not all facilities that we identify will keep a particular product. So we've got some facilities where we could not collect those products. and analytical testing is to commence in September 2024. And again, as I asked last time in the last RTF, we just request industry's collaboration with this sampling process and to assist us with this post-market surveillance, as it does contribute to us as South Africa achieving WHL ML3 for medicines and maintaining our WHL ML3 for vaccine manufacturing. Thank you. Chair.
Chair, you're muted.
Sorry, I've been trying to unmute. Apologies and speaking to myself. Thank you, Dion. Let's take it for comments. I'm scrolling through the questions here. I see a few are being addressed. I'm not, yeah, I think there aren't that many, Dion, for you here. I think it's still, so there's one on codeine. Yeah, and I mean, I just want to commend everyone who's been working with us on the Coding K initiative and the various webinars, the two that we've had, and I see there's one coming up, and hopefully it goes a long way really in addressing the issues we're having around that. And you know, if I look at the collaboration around codeine, I do hope that on management of substandard and falsified products, we can work jointly with industry and where there are product-specific issues with the respective holders of the certificate of registration, because I do find that where we collaborate, we certainly can make great progress. So thanks for driving really with us this Coding K initiative. Okay, all right, thanks. Dion, and then you can look if there's any others that crop up post this. Thank you so much. Sorry, colleagues, we're not going to squeeze in a break because we're tight on time. So do step off, make a cup of coffee here and there, because we are due to finish at, got about an hour and a half, and we still have quite a lot to take, and I do want to open it up later on for questions. So Dimakato is not here. I understand that is it Lydia who's going to assist? I just want to check the message.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Morning, everyone. I'm just getting my presentation. Okay, I'll just put it in a presentation mode. Morning from medical devices. I'll start first with the second point, which is the medical device regulatory roadmap. As we know, we regulate medical devices. We started by licensing establishments, and then we are supposed to do a registration. So far, I'll just mention that in terms of licensing, we have already started with the renewals, and then we're looking at product registration. We started with product feasibility study. We have done the webinars with industry, so I will just go straight to where we are in terms of the feasibility study. So during licensing, we started with pre-marketing, basic controls. We've got guidance documents for new establishments to have documents that they use during their development. And then on the market, we started by licensing establishment, as I indicated, and with the post-marketing surveillance through vigilance, and where we're looking at also the field safety corrective actions. Sorry, I'm moving very fast because I'm aware that we are run out of time, and most people are aware of what is going on in terms of licensing. So when we come to the feasibility study, this is just an update where we are as the feasibility study. We started publishing the expression of interest in May, and then the closing date was the 28th of June 2024. And to date, we have 15 organizations that submitted their expression of interest on or before the 28th of June, of which we have 22 products that we received from these 15 applicants who are volunteers. Out of the 22, we have 15 which are HIV products, and 9 out of the HIV products is IVDs, and 6 is non-IVDs. And then out of the 22 products, we have 7 for tuberculosis, of which 4 is IVD and 3 is non-IVD. And at the present moment, what we have done, we have responded to all the applicants with the outcome of their application. The next thing is for the participants to be engaged on the submission portal and how to track the applications. And then they will after this engagement, they'll start submitting their dossiers. There will be continuous engagement for the participants. And then in terms of conformity assessment bodies that will need to assist with the feasibility study. So far, we have engaged 5 conformity assessment bodies that are interested in the study, and 3 of which are the local conformity assessment body, and then 2 of which are international. We are in collaboration with SANAS to discuss external service provider to provide training for the CAPs as well, as this is a learning process for all of us, both industry, conformity assessment bodies, and the MD medical device unit team in SAHPRA for registration. I'll move to the status of the medical device revised regulations, as it was published for comments on the 25th of August 2023, where NDOH received the comments from the stakeholders, and it was collated and given to SAHPRA on February 2024. So from there, the medical device team, especially the registration team, were the one that started collating the regulation in a format that they are able to review it. Then we started reviewing it from April to June, where after we have reviewed, we send it to our expert committee for their recommendation. When they have they reviewed and then shared the recommendation in July, where we have collated them. At the moment, also in the legal meeting where the regulations are now reviewed by a legal team with the expert committee and the medical device unit, the regulation team. So I'm in 2 meetings at the moment, and I think that's all for medical devices, for the regulation and medical device update. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Just want to see if there's any burning questions. I don't see any. No, I don't see any. All right, thank you, Lydia. And just look out again for questions post your presentation. Who's going to take us through radiation? Is Mkondisi or Colbert here?
I'll just go to it.
You'll do that? Okay, great.
I'll just try my best. For radiation control incidents management, I hope you can still see my slides.
Yes, we can.
The process to date is that there is an internal SOP that's being under finalization, and there will be a guideline to be published for public comment concerning that. And then the outcome so far, the published incident and the outcome, they are still under discussion. And then we considering at the moment encourage voluntary reporting by any person, including organizations. And then for this for this year, we have received 9 reporting, 7 of which are closed, 2 in progress. And then reports were done through whistleblower. And then I think it's 2 whistleblower, and the one was member of the public. Companies to contact SAHPRA with details of companies contact details with SAHPRA. Okay, for any other information that they require. Thank you. I'll stop sharing here. Any other question regarding incidents management? I'll take it up to the team, radiation control team.
Okay, thank you, Lydia. I just want to see if there's questions. I'm not seeing any. Just to comment that this issue of publication of outcomes came through at our meeting last week, and it was raised by the colleague from the Radiology Society, I think, but this is a matter that we are looking at across the organization in terms of publishing any findings of this matter. So yeah, we'll give updates in due course, but we are looking at this matter. Okay, thank you. And then we're going to go into guidelines. So we'll start with Khonze.
Sorry, Chair, I was trying to unmute. Hi, everyone. So with regards to guidelines, the update is on borderline. Borderline guideline is still well underway. However, so all the comments I received from industry, as I've been given feedback, were implemented. We did then have a working group, and then the borderline guideline went to legal, where it was instructed it needs to go to the committees. It's been to the medical device committee. It's been to the CMC, which is the Complementary Medicine Committee. And then from that, it was notarized that it needs to go sit with department, with the NDOH Foods Control. It's currently with them. We've been giving them 2 weeks. Their 2-week deadline ends this weekend. It'll then go back to the working group to incorporate all the comments from the committees, and then it will be finalized and published. Thank you, Chair. Any questions? Thank you,
I
Chair.
don't see any. Just give me a second. No question yet. I'm sure it'll come. So just look at the platform. Just keep the agenda up, Mokona, as we discuss these guidelines. I don't think we had an agenda item on the fees. Rashad, I don't know if he's here. You want to comment on the fees, Gazette?
Morning, Miss. I'm here. Morning, everyone. The fees are, we've submitted it to the Department of Health. They've done some checks and questions, and after their nod, it went to National Treasury to get concurrence with the Minister of Finance. So that's where it's currently sitting, and it's been there for quite some time. But the latest update is that it is going through their formal approval processes. So no formalized date, but I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks that would be approved, and then we would gazette. But once we get some information or some more concrete progress, we'll definitely also from our side on the websites and communication just indicate, hopefully before they publish it, just a tentative date. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Hans, there's some questions on the guideline on the chat, so if you could just respond to that. Lydia will take you again on item number 2. Lydia?
Sorry, Chair, which item? I was busy answering the questions on.
Okay, no. The medical devices adverse events guideline.
Oh, the adverse event guideline. I'm not sure if Puselezo is on the line concerning that. I think that is under review. It will be tabled at the the policy committee. I think the next coming policy committee, it will be discussed there. This one I was not aware of. I was not, maybe it was given to Puselezo, but what I'm aware of, there is a policy committee meeting coming up where they will be presenting the medical device adverse event guideline, which is, we call it vigilance guideline.
Yeah, okay. So what timeframes are you looking at?
Chair, I'll go back to Puselezo for advice. I don't know if she's on the meeting right now. I'll come back to with the timelines.
Yeah, so
shortly.
please check on the timelines and then put them on the chat, please. Okay,
Will do,
thank
Chair.
you. And then I'm not sure, Ditsaho, what we need to update on in the BE policy because it's still out for comment. The comments close. They close in September sometime. Bongani, I think it's September, ne? I don't know if Bongani is here.
Bongani is with the Makato in the legal meeting on the
Okay,
release.
yes. So yeah, so no specific updates. There are that draft policy closes sometime in September, if I remember correctly. So please do provide your input. And then on the appeals guideline, I must personally apologize. I thought it was finalized and published, and Bongani reminded me that no, there was something outstanding from my side. So apologies, I did address that this week, and we will then be publishing that guideline. Profuse apologies. I really thought it was done. So yeah, it will be published sometime next week at the latest. Linked to that also, we will be publishing hopefully next week the draft policy on supporting local manufacturers, and that would be up for comment, and so we'll indicate the commentary period. Okay. All right. Then Kristalna, IT. There were quite a number of questions on the chat, and I think we will probably get a lot of questions also. But over to you, please.
Thanks, Tumi. I think I've just got one slide. Sorry, let me just open that up, which I can share with the colleagues. Right, so let me just enlarge that. So just from an ICT perspective, we have had, I think, a fairly busy year so far. A lot of the activities really started towards the end of last year, where we were able to appoint and contract different service providers through open tender processes. And a lot of the work started actually in December, and then we resumed activities at the start of January. But main activity streams for us this year was focused on the work that we're doing with a technology consultancy group, specifically there that focuses on the build of the SAHPRA portal. At the moment, the work order one or first activities that we are focusing on is to establish the basic portal functionality that will allow us then to continue our digitalization of various business processes. But the ones that we're starting with, of course, are the ones that deal with HPA application management, the interface between the Lawrence Dockubridge system, so that we can also exchange information from portal to the Dockubridge application quite seamlessly. And we also are refreshing the Section 21 applications feature, primarily also because Microsoft Power Apps application is actually no longer going to be supported by Microsoft. So we do need to transition that application onto another platform. In this space, it deals with the application features for HPA applications being new, renewal, and amendments. Also for Section 21 applications being named patient as well as bulk applications. And in this, we have different modules that also deals then with the applications, manual EFT payments processing. We are also building in and future-proofing this to take then as well payments through a payment gateway, either then instant EFT or credit card payments. And we then have the kind of activity or service that you then select that's linked also to kick off then sales orders that's costed and calculated against the fee structure that has been gazetted and is in place at a specific time point. There's a little bit of a finance administration function in terms of managing, the uploads of the proof of payments, making sure that the sales orders that we generate have specific payment reference numbers, that the right payments are being uploaded and referenced back to service requests, so that we can start having a streamlined process around managing the financial payments as they appear on a bank statement, link that very clearly then to a transaction request through the SAHPRA portal. So a lot of nice things that we are putting in place for ourselves to manage, I think, from an operational perspective, things a lot more efficiently, and also support the finance unit with all of the financial reconciliation components, etc. Through this portal, we also have another area which I see now I didn't specifically call out, but we've been talking about also enabling then real-time view of what transactions you've got open as a company. So it could be a myriad of transactions that you are engaging SAHPRA with, new product applications, variation applications, perhaps Section 21 applications, and hopefully in future then other application processes as well, licensing, other new licenses or amendment requests or renewals, Section 36 applications, etc. But you will basically see all of those transactions then listed on your menu, and you will be able to also then see what the status is that is feeding through either the work processing that takes place in the portal or takes place in one of the third-party systems that's integrated with it. So we are starting this, and I think, as I said, the base portal development is very near completion. And of course, our first modules being then the HPA application processing. We have got a planned launch date for the 7th of October, and for the Section 21 applications interface, a planned launch date for the 11th of November. Before we have then those transactions opened to take in applications, we also will have user account registration that will open already on the 25th of September. So this allows all of the various users of the portal then to go and register their organization account. So as means of an example, so for instance, if I am Pharma Company X, I go and register as the RP, I go and register an admin user account on the portal for Pharma Company X. I load all of the relevant details related to the organization or the legal entity, and thereafter I will invite through the system function, I will invite all of the other system users that belong to my organization. I will specify their roles, their contact details, and they then get, through the interface, they then get their little email invites through Outlook, click on it, come back in, and then load their own particulars. This account administrator then also has the ability to add new users when new people join an organization, and also has the ability to deactivate users that may have left an organization and is no longer part of that company and should then no longer be able to access any of the transactional data as it relates to that particular organization. That then means that any transactional data which any of your organization's users have created on the platform, all of that will then remain as it sits under the legal entity and it's part of the company information. So I think this is addresses then one of the challenges that the colleagues experience with one of the other platforms that they used for variation applications. So it's a much richer user account administration space, and also it allows for different kinds of users to actually open accounts, whether it's for an organization or in a person's personal capacity. This particularly more so applicable for healthcare practitioners, etc. We will have industry introduction sessions or little webinars that we are setting up. So for the HPA applications processing as well as user account administration, that will largely be dealt with in the session that we are planning to have the 20th of September. And we will have then also another follow-on session for the 5th of November in preparation for that Section 21 applications interface. But again, the communications team will assist us with setting that up and making sure that we get communication around registration for those particular events once we have the calendar firmed up. We also, in the last few weeks, started with the process for, sorry, I see I'm missing an S, for the NDS 7 system. So procurement there has been finalized. For this particular software solution, it deals with the import-export permit applications for controlled substances. The team has visited us the week of the starting 12th of August. So internal configuration is well underway. We are internally at the moment busy with getting the data sets prepared in the right formats, doing a bit of data cleansing to make sure that reference information to support controlled vocabulary and reference lists is then imported. For our next steps, we will internally also just be doing a little bit of user-accepted testing over the month of September and October, with a plan then to engage industry in November 2024. And again, the format that will take is we'll be doing a parallel process or a pilot run, same as what we do with clinical trials, where we will be doing an expression of interest, inviting a number of applicants that then would want to participate in testing and also doing the UAT with us for a period of time, looking then at taking the total solution live quite early in the new year. I think the tentative date that the team is looking at is March 2025. So this is also something that is starting to get a little bit of momentum. We also then have, as I mentioned, the clinical trials process or management solution. We have trialed and piloted a application that is currently being used by one of the other regulatory authorities in Africa, and the funder that supports this particular development engaged SAHPRA as well, for us then to do a joint project and to test if this application would also suit SAHPRA's requirements and SAHPRA's needs. So for us, a very exciting opportunity to also then digitalize the clinical trials management. However, I think during the pilot phase, we have received some comments from various stakeholders, from the industry experts, from some of the industry colleagues, as well as in the SAHPRA evaluator team, as well as the SAHPRA internal staff, around specific challenges or needs requirements that we have, which the current application did not cater for. And with us having then subsequent engagements with the funder, this actually was quite positive, and they have decided to continue to support SAHPRA to digitalize the clinical trials management process, but using then a approach where we can have a custom solution that will address all of our needs and meet the requirements of both the SAHPRA staff as well as the various stakeholders that we engaged originally in the pilot. So this is a nice change for us in what we thought, unfortunately we would not be able to digitalize. But certainly it is exciting that we can start, and in fact later this afternoon, have our kickoff session where we can engage with the service provider to progress then hopefully quite rapidly, as we already have had a lot of learning over the period of August last year through to February this year, where a lot of work has already gone in to setting up the previous system. So we hope that this will progress actually quite rapidly, and that we can then engage as well early next year for another EOI and another pilot process to run, hopefully with then quite positive results, where we would have been able to adequately address the shortcomings and some of the pain points that we've had with the previous tool. For the implementation or the changeover from our evaluation system that we previously used to a new evaluation system, we actually transitioned onto a different tool altogether that not only provides an evaluation tool, but also then looks at providing the support for the document management and case management of our applications, through then also the life cycle management for the various health products that we look after. The process started on the 16th of April with the applications for orthodox and biological medicines. Sorry, let me just close this. In the migration of the legacy applications, we've experienced various challenges, and a lot of that has to do with the quality of some of the application data sets that we have on the data repository. We did see that the ECD transfer was a lot smoother and a lot easier than the e-submission structures that we had. There are and were various challenges with these e-submissions, and I think one thing that we can now see is that the stricter application of the business validation that happens during that administrative screening step that is now in place and enforced by the automated system tool really is getting us better quality submissions. Also because they are now coming in ECTD and no longer e-submission structure, this has improved the quality of the applications that we are able to take in. I think this is something that internally we have discussed, and I've mentioned this on 2 previous occasions to industry colleagues, that we will in future also engage with different applicants from time to time to assist us then with correcting some of the missing or incomplete information that we find sits in these electronic submissions, whether ECTD or e-submission formats. We also further updated the e-submission guidelines. So, of course, within the DocuBridge space, we can handle ECTDs, and we are with orthodox medicines and biological medicines on ECTD. For other areas or for other categories of medicines where specifically as an example, I will call out the vet industry, where they also through vet ICH are looking at making their own changes in the near future. We have for our e-submission applications that still come in CTD format, also updated the guideline and have published that. And I think with the engagements that we'll have with specific sectors of the industry around starting the process now of bringing in the applications in the new and aligned e-submission guideline for CTD, those will be focus sessions. What I mean by that is we will have, for instance, a session with the vet industry specifically, and then other interest groups like the CAMS industry, so that we can deal with the specific questions and challenges that they may have in terms of interpreting or understanding the guideline requirements. We will, I think, through Pratiba and the HBA team, be publishing then the updated communication, as well as the final guideline post the inputs and comments and suggestions that we had on the e-submission guideline by the end of this week. And along with that, also the CTD folder structure, which is then downloadable and ready for use. But of course, the key thing for us is to set up the actual working sessions with the different industry work streams so that they know how to use that folder structure, what documents is required to go into what subfolders, etc., etc. But yeah, I think the information will be at least available by the end of the week. We also have then the revised and updated ECTD structure that was published earlier this year, within a small update that was published again in July. And we are firmly working towards that go live or implementation date, which is set for the 1st of October 2024. As you know, Pratiba and the communications team have been running quite a number of webinars for us so that we can work through those, make sure that there is very clear understanding around what the changes entail. Also from our side, some of the questions that have come up quite frequently to also then address any confusion that may exist around specific elements that we've picked up in terms of the recurrence of specific questions being asked in that frequently asked questions document. The last item, just as an update from a systems perspective, is for pharmacovigilance. So we are looking at bringing in a software solution, also to support our pharmacovigilance unit. The team has been doing quite a lot of work also with on a national level to coordinate pharmacovigilance within the country. And one of the things that we do need to do is to provide also then a software platform that will continue them in managing this and coordinating this from a national level, taking in information from other entities and other parties that also play quite an active role in pharmacovigilance, whether that's across the private sector, NGO sector, or the public sector, as well as then the intake of information from our applicants in an electronic way, so that we can then speed up the case management and assessment and signal detection capabilities within the unit. And a very key component is that we are also able to interface quite seamlessly with the African Medicines Agency's Pharmacovigilance Center at a point in time. So with all of these pieces of technology that we are implementing, that definitely is something that underpins all of the activity, is that it has to be interoperable with other systems, whether that is locally at a NDOH, NHI level, or then at a continental level with ARMA in due course. Thanks, Chair. I think that's all from my side for now.
Thank you, Christina. So lots of questions coming up. I think this is probably the one where we will open it up for questions. But in the meantime, while you take a breath, please do respond to please respond to the questions on the chat. There's quite a bit. Okay, and Pratibha, I'm sure, is also responding to some of these. Good. All right. In the interest of time, I just want to see what time we finish. Okay, we've got an hour. Let's take Rachad, and then maybe we can come back to these questions, Kristalna, on the digitization. So just to give you and Pratibha time to look at those. Which terms of reference, sorry, Mokona, are we referring to under 12.1?
This is an item that came from Lynette.
Okay, please go ahead.
Open mic. She wouldn't have a mic open at the moment.
Oh, I see Khonse wants to comment.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Chair. So after seeing this morning, I assumed they're referring to the working group tours, the tours document for the RTF. Maybe in the chat, if she can just confirm. But if it is that, then may I give an update, Chair? Oh, she says correct.
Yes, go ahead.
So the tours, so the RTF tours went out to industry 5th June, of which they gave back their inputs on the 30th of July. So we have worked on it as a working group, and we have incorporated and implemented the comments. It does though have to go to QMS and for signing, and we anticipate to have it back to them on the 30th of August. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Khonse. I'm sure there'll be some questions. Okay, Leonard says thank you. Okay, and then we've touched on the fees. Rachad, I don't know if there's anything else you want to raise.
No, Chair, that was basically the update.
Okay. All right. Kristalna, do you mind if we come back to you on some of these questions? If you could just go through them.
Yeah,
just going through where I want to see where it starts so I can guide you.
Trying to think when I started talking, it might be
So
around
they start from 10:51. So there's a question here. Can you please share an update on the release of document of a Q&A document, ECTD. I'm not sure on that question now. By ST, I don't know. Silpa. So Silpa, if you could just clarify, I think you used some shorthand there. Can you please share an update on the release of document Q&A? So let's see, if you can just clarify that one.
So, Chair, yeah, I don't know if she means in terms of the FAQ document that we've got on the ECTD site at the moment. So that one, we basically have kind of sitting on the ECTD site now, as the last one we had coming out of the sessions. I think we ran before we started arranging for these interactive webinars with Pratibha and the Vector team. And I'll invite Pratibha maybe also to chime in there, Chair. These sessions, I think we definitely encourage industry to attend those sessions, the webinars that Pratibha and the team have been running. I think the feedback from the colleagues that have been attending those, it's very informative, and it helps also create quite a lot of clarity around the 3.1. So for any item that, as I said, was a recurring theme on the Q&A, those we actually have tried to deal with in these webinars. I would recommend that the colleague just accesses the Q&A document as it then stands on the ECTD site. And if there are further questions, they can also then submit those through the form using then that specific email address, so that Pratibha and the team can take a view and try and see if there is a new issue that we need to address in a subsequent webinar. Thanks.
Thank you. Then there's a question. When do you anticipate these sessions with CAMS on ECTD requirements and challenges? It says ECTD requirements are difficult to meet, if near impossible for the CAMS industry.
Yeah, so Chair, we are not implementing ECTD for CAMS. We are implementing CTD, and I think the guideline for CTD e-submissions for complementary medicines, I think that has been published and is available. So the requirements of what information needs to be submitted to the regulator is available. What we are doing internally is just creating, as well, we actually have already created a specific folder structure. So it doesn't require any special tools or special software, basically just a Microsoft Windows folder structure within the CTD module 1, 2, 3, 4 folders. And then within that folder, the little subfolder for ZA to deal with the 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, etc., etc. So this folder structure works in parallel with the guideline that says that for 1.1, you need to append this document. This is what it should contain. For 1.2, you should include this document. This is what it should contain. So I think the Complementary Medicines unit will be setting up those sessions from our side, from IT side. We will be there to facilitate, I think, just the understanding around how the folder works, how we need that information to then be placed in the folder. Because what we will do with the complementary medicines applications is take those in. As I said, that folder gets shared through to us via the FTP upload, and we will then pull that folder in to build the hyperlinks and the XML backbone that is required by the evaluators to review. I cannot speak on a timeline where the CAMS unit will set those sessions up. But what I can say is that internally with IT and the unit, as we are preparing for those sessions, we have our second workshop set for the 30th of August. It is likely that we'll continue working on this in September and then start with engagements with industry, inviting them to go on the first workshop with us probably towards the end of October. But again, as I said, I don't want to speak out of turn. That is something that I believe Kaiser will communicate in due time. But just, yeah, I mean, there is from our side, that's what we've got in our mind. That's what we're working towards, is internally to get ourselves ready to start having a few workshops with industry then from October onwards. Thanks.
Okay, then the next one. It says, is the e-submission guideline uploaded on the SAHPRA website?
So I think on that question, we had the e-submission, the new e-submission guideline for CTD applications uploaded previously for comment. And I know that Pratibha and the team will be, as I said, publishing that by the end of the week. So the finalized version that takes into consideration some of the suggestions and comments and just clarification that was required, that will go up by the end of the week. But I do see Pratibha's got a hand up, Chair. Maybe I can just ask her to as well add a comment there.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Christelna. So yes, 2.58 is scheduled for publishing tomorrow. I'm just double checking the hyperlinks in the document. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Pratibha.
you. All right, then the next questions are on PV. I'm going to read these two. Is the PV software platform going to be for all products or only human medicines? Will the PV software enable gateway submission by industry?
Chair, so yes, so the PV software platform, what we are looking at is a module that deals with orthodox medicines, vaccines, as well as then also a section that will deal with medical device and IVDs. It will go in different phases, so it won't all happen at the same time, largely also because the medical devices colleagues are still finalizing the feasibility study and the guidelines and the procedures around that. So we will look at taking orthodox medicines vaccine live first. In terms of a gateway submission, so yes, I think we have already the MedSafety app mobile version. We are looking to deploy the desktop version, and then for industry is taking those submissions in an E2BR3 XML format in via gateway submission. So we will also publish that XML format so that it's very easy then to do electronic submission from applicant to SAHPRA. Thanks.
Okay, the next one is, are we able to submit sequences via the SFTP while awaiting the portal to go live in ECTD version 3.1 before official implementation? Or should we continue submit sequences in ECTD version 2.1 or 3.0?
Thanks, Chair. So no, 1st of October is the formal go-live date for ECTD 3.1. So the sequences that get submitted from the 1st of October, even though it's through SFTP direct, will then be in 3.1, and that should be the formal start date. The portal facility of 7th of October means just instead of uploading through FTP, we'll be uploading through portal, but we'll be uploading 3.1 as of 1 October.
Thank you. May a summary of the Q&A please be shared? Will you have a Q&A, Christelna, that you can share?
Chair, yeah, I think I would probably just ask Mel maybe just to assist with the Q&A summary for this session, but for the ICT sessions for documents and so forth, I will just check with Pratibha if there is anything over and above the Q&A document that's already available that we can maybe also put out. I want to, Chair, I think I finally caught up with you. I think I want to just catch up in terms of question after that talks to is the feedback on comments on traceability guideline. So We have received, and I think from my side, I am still collating a lot of the comments that have come in. Some of it came in by the 30th of June, and then we also actually had some submissions that came in now before the 30th of July. I think there was a little bit of a miscommunication from our side in terms of by when comments should be in. So I've accepted those comments that have come in July, and I just needed to incorporate them now. What we have indicated through HPA is we'll set up a webinar again towards the end of September to then just give feedback in terms of comments that have been incorporated so that we can finalize that traceability guideline as well.
Okay, I skipped a few.
Did I?
But there's one that says, I think this is the one that I just want to check Patiba responded to. When will the ECTD 2.24 guideline be published?
I take that.
I don't know where that one is.
Yeah, I had to skip a bit. There were a few that were not IT related.
I've answered that one, Christelle. All
Okay, cool,
guidelines,
thanks.
including
Yes, you did.
by the end of the year.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man.
Okay. And then the next one is the Section 21 interface. How will the interface for the applications work with Section 21?
Not sure what the question means, but I think, let me answer it this way. So it's very similar to the current Section 21 applications process. You will go onto the SAHPRA portal. You will log in on your account, or you will create an account, and then from there you basically then have a menu to select from to say which kind of applications or services you would want to then use. So you would select Section 21 applications, and from there it would basically then step you through a little bit of an application wizard where it would ask you if you're doing a named patient application or a bulk application. Depending which one you select, it will then take you to another set of screens where you will be required to then fill in the necessary information. Very much the same as what we have on the current portal, except we then have some additional functionality in terms of controlled references and controlled vocabulary that we use. Things like INN, where there's a search instead of a manual input, or specific site information where there's a search instead of an input. And then when you do a reauthorization request, there is a check that happens to see whether or not those progress reports have been submitted. If they have been submitted, it becomes available in your list or your menu of applications you've done before. You can select that application, and basically it pulls in the detail from the previous application, so you don't have to recapture that. And then you can apply for the reauthorization, provided that those progress reports, etc., have been logged in the system. And it works the same way for bulk applications. By and large, some of the, I think, reporting requirements or asks are slightly different. But there is actually then in that process a little link where you can download the relevant reporting form in the right format, complete that. It's a fillable PDF, and that gets uploaded and submitted and reshared back to us. So yeah, I hope that answers the question, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. I skipped, there's a few PV ones. Dotline, just have a look at those. We'll come to those again. And then there's, it says that, is there a problem now with E2B submissions? I get no acknowledgement since June. And will there be training on E2B format submissions for PV?
Okay, I don't know where that question is, Chair, but I think that is maybe something in terms of, is there a problem with submissions? That I don't know. I think that is something perhaps that Victoria or Tuchlan can maybe just offer a comment on. In terms of training, again, from our side, from the IT side, we can certainly assist with training on how to fill in or structure the E2B R3 compliant forms. But as to the technical bits, I definitely am not well equipped to answer that, and again would defer to the PV colleagues if they have then specific training that they would like to share and arrange with industry. It sounds like a nice idea for a new webinar. I will put Mel and Tuklang in the hot seat on that one.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thanks, Chris. I was not aware of that little glitch. Let me go back and see what the problem could be. And I'm glad that you've mentioned it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known that you're not getting a feedback on your submissions. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Mr. T.
Okay, and then there's another one. It says post ECTD 3.1 implementation. In case of a withdrawal, transfer of application, splitting of dossier, the sequence submission only includes a letter. Should the selected submission type be undefined regulatory activity, as according to the document matrix, only an application letter or letter of authorization are required?
Chair, so from my side, I'm going to ask the colleagues in HPA maybe just to comment on that. I think for cancellations, withdrawals, transfer of applicants, etc., we have included quite a nice write-up in the 3.1 guideline. But I don't know if there's anything specific that Pratibha wants to ask or add, just for point of clarity in terms of that question.
Yeah, thanks, CRO. I did respond that I will get back to the applicant once I confirm the submission type for a withdrawal cancellation. And I've actually made a note that we'll include it in next week's webinar as well.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, thanks, Pratibha.
Okay, and then the questions are coming. We're going to pause at 11:30 and then just raise your hands. We'll open up mics for some questions, but let's just quickly work through these. And I'm skipping a few because I see colleagues are responding. I'm not sure if this is for you or Dotlang. When will the cutoff be for ADR reporting via PDF and only E2B submissions required?
Cheerio, this is for the PV colleagues to answer.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. That will depend on the system. As soon as the system is up and running, then it will all be electronic, isn't it? So as soon as we are at that stage, then the cutoff will be implemented.
Okay. Oh, okay. Someone was clarifying that will the Q&A for this meeting be published? Because I think we published the recording, right?
Yes, the recording and presentations.
And presentations, yeah. Okay, so that's what we published. And then I see Luleka did address the one on the communication we sent out. Good. So there's a question here. It says, would like to confirm we may submit the version 3.1 envelope and N1 structure before 1st of October in September via FTP with the trigger file. The implementation date confirm it's mandatory. Yeah, maybe confirm if the implementation date is mandatory from 1st of October. I see someone said shop, so it looks like Christina.
Yeah, Chair, so yes, it's mandatory from the 1st of October. And if the applications get submitted and it's already compliant with 3.1 before 1st of October, if the applicant could just let us know. So from a systems perspective, we are ready to start receiving 3.1, but it would just be good to know if somebody's pulled the trigger and they are then submitting 3.1, so we can walk it through the process, make sure everything runs smoothly. Thanks.
Okay. So the next one is where we submit applications or responses in the meantime through our FTP portal, as was previously submitted, while we await 3.1 implementation.
Not exactly sure what the question is, Chair. If the colleagues mean they must continue submitting their sequences using the current ECTT version 2.4, if that is the case, then yes, I mean this is what we have been doing since the 16th of April. So that process will remain in place, and we will carry on with the normal way of taking those applications in based on the current ECTD version. And then mandatory from the 1st of October, we will be taking those applications in again, as we said, through SFTP in version 3.1 compliant format. And then we also have the portal that will also be available from the 7th of October. So applications we would like to start taking in through the portal from the 7th in 3.1. Thanks.
Great. All right. And then there's a question I've moved down quite a bit, Kristalna.
Okay.
It says, we have not received any feedback emails for our FTPs with trigger files. Who can we contact to clarify this issue? It does not seem to be whitelist. It does not seem to be a whitelisting issue since we get non-reply at SAHPRA emails from DBP.
Thanks, Chair. So I think some of the other colleagues that have had issues before, either it's a file naming convention problem, or there is an issue with the file itself. So I'm not sure for the member that asked this, if they could send through an email to either myself or Pratiba with the example, so that we can just look at what the particular issue is and revert back with guidance in terms of how to resolve it. But usually what applicants would do is they would go onto the FTP folder location and have a look. So if the file is fetched and removed from FTP, it means that we are pulling it into DocuBridge and working with it. If there is a problem on the file, it moves it into the error folder and changes the name for the trigger file to incorrect file naming convention, etc., etc. There's a specific name that we indicate so that the applicant knows to investigate then the issues on their trigger file. But if they are not clear on how to do this, they are welcome then to drop an email so that we can just provide guidance in terms of the troubleshooting that needs to happen.
Okay, great. So we're going to pause a bit in this format. Ntokozo, can we open up for 30 minutes now the platform for questions? Colleagues, if we didn't address your question, apologies. We really tried as much as we can. And again, when asking questions now, please, I hope we'll raise new matters or clarification on what we've responded to. So let me see. Ntokozo, I'm seeing, I need to see hands raised. I'm not seeing.
Kristen that has a hand raised, or his or hand.
Go ahead, please. Oh, here we go.
Many thanks. It's a he. I get that often, no worries. My question is this. If we are serious about, let's say, starting a clean slate with type 2s, for instance, could we not consider a mechanism where all your type 2s are filtered based on stock levels and I guess patient need, i.e., something that is a life-saving drug. But more importantly, if we could have a mechanism where we could tell SAHPRA our stock levels are low in certain products, only focus on those type 2s. For instance, we've got like 50 sitting with SAHPRA, but it would be amazing if I could have a mechanism to tell you only these 2 or 3 are running low on stock. Please focus on those. That's my question. Thank you.
We're going to take 3 at a time. So I'll ask Dotlang and Silverani maybe to speak to that. Dion, you may add if you want, to Portia. Nicola.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Samete. My question relates to the comments you made on extension timelines. Where we have an issue is converting from e-submission to ECTD. It's quite a process, especially for applicants who have a number of products, where, especially for responses and that. Could that not be considered for the extensions? I don't want to have a rejection because we have to extend because we've got to convert it into ECTD. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Christina, I don't know if you're going to take that. Ofense.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Tumi. I think
let's just take a set first. Apologies, I'm just flagging it so that you guys can prepare to respond. We'll take Ofense and Shilpa, and then we'll respond.
Thanks, Doc. Greetings, everyone. So just 2 questions from me. One is directed to Christelna. When you said that you are ready to receive, but we should let you know if it was prepared in with the 3.1 specs, how would we be letting you know? Would it be like in a cover letter? Is there like an email would have to send? And the second question is with regards to earlier on in the presentation, it was mentioned that with extensions, if extensions are prolonged, they should rather reject the application. So in instances where the query that was received, perhaps they needed studies done, right? And those studies take a bit of time to complete and they have a bit of admin here and there. Would those cases be looked at differently, or would it just be outright that if whatever is needed takes time, it's going to get rejected? So those are just 2 questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Shilpa, please.
Hi, this is Shilpa. So my question is to Christina. Christina, I have 2 questions. One is related to the validation criteria. So what happens if validation criteria fails when the defined lists are not updated? This is number 1. And number 2, as per the presentation, you mentioned that regulatory for future engage industry to assist with the application structure corrections. So does this will have impact in the change in the version 3.1 again? And if so, what is the timelines? That's all. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take those. Christina, you can go first, because the bulk are for you, and then the teams can comment on type 1B, type 2.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Tumi. So I think the question around converting CTD to ECTD, again, I assume that the colleagues would do their own planning in terms of which dossiers gets converted first, and basically manage that according to, I suppose, their stock levels or whatever other kind of planning that they have around this. Again, we have had this question asked quite a few times before, and I think we have been consistent in terms of how we address that. So we did also indicate that with the survey that we've done, converting a compliant CTD, which we should all have from the 1st of June 2016, taking in that CTD and converting to ECTD, depending on what kind of software tool gets used. It typically ranges from 2 business days to a worst case scenario, 6 business day process. So therefore, I think if we can just encourage the different applicants then to manage that from a planning perspective in line with their internal requirements. The question from Fancy, I think I can answer the first one. I'm not sure if the second one is for the units. But in terms of taking in a submission that already complies with version 3.1, Fancy, you can actually just send me and Pratibha an email so that we can just keep an eye on that application for you and just let you know. But you should also be getting the automated responses in any event. It is just, for me, I think probably more out of personal curiosity. I'm quite keen to see that one come through and for us to just keep an eye on that one. The second question, as I said to you, from Offense, I think that's maybe one for the units. And as for the question from Shilpa, so what happens if the validation fails because the defined list for documents is not updated? I'm not exactly sure what the colleague means by that, because I mean validation can only fail if what we are validating is not met. So we wouldn't be changing validation if we are not changing the defined list at the same time. And I'm not sure if maybe that's what the colleague wanted to know, is would we update the one and not the other? Because the answer for that then would be no. We would be updating both. And also because we at this point, as I said, have accommodated to validate for 2.4 and 3.1 to Offence's point, we just need to know when the 3.1 comes in so that those actually run through the 3.1 validation mechanism. In terms of corrections for submissions or some incomplete or incorrect data sets that we have at the moment, no, this has, I think, nothing to do with any future submissions or changes to 3.1. This talks to information that is missing or incomplete or incorrect in the data sets that we already have. So this is a retrospective review of the electronic documents that we have. And if any data gaps exist or there is a correction that we need to do, is that we'll engage with the applicants, but that will be something that will be managed as a project and not through the normal submission process. So it should not affect 3.1 or future submissions. Thanks.
Okay. Datlang Silverani, Diana Posha on the type 2s.
Thanks, Chair. We have a priority review framework just for those crisis situations, and I'm not quite sure if industry would deem that to be not effective enough to mitigate the risks to access as they mentioned them. And I'm assuming here that the variations being referred to are those that will affect access and not necessarily those that would normally be submitted to clinical. I will stop there until I get some clarity, but I see Silva would like to speak to those that affect access to medicines. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Tushlang. Yes, I just wanted to outline that the applications that we receive are from various companies, and they are first in, first out generally. And as Tushlang's outlined, that we have a priority process, and should this be a priority in terms of stock out for public health need, this can be applied for. And then we also have a challenge in that applicants have to plan. Obviously you would know what your stock levels are and ensure that you have adequate when submitting for an amendment, so that it does not become the regulator's challenge that you have a pending stock out or a stock out situation. So this is something we have previously indicated to applicants: kindly plan your stocks. And it's not so, if there's 50 of you all asking for a priority of your products at the same time, it does not vouchsafe the administrative justice to applicants who have submitted previously and has also planned for it. So I think in principle it requires a lot of planning on your side when you do make extensive changes to your applications resulting in type 2. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Duma. I have nothing further to add on what Silverani and Tushlang have said.
Okay. Portia, anything from your side?
Same from my end, Chair. I wanted to indicate that we do have a priority review process where applicant, for those products that are urgent and those that qualify for this, then they would need to, send them through that route. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, we've got 20 minutes. Shilpa, Raima Padi, or Gyabetsu, let me say Gyabetsu, Dale Peters, Gabriel, and Kavashni. Let's take those 5.
Questions with regards to priority review. So my first one would be timelines for response when we send a priority review. And then the second one would be, how often are the priority review committee meetings held? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Shilpa?
Yeah. So this is my further question, Christina. So with regards to the document matrix, so there have been some typo errors which has been acknowledged by the SAHPRA team too. So may I know when these errors, the corrections have been, will update for these errors, typo errors? Thank you.
Dr. Tumi, shall I?
No, let's just wait a bit. Okay. Let's take Dale Peters.
Hi there. Thanks for this platform. My first is a comment with regard to planning for type 2 variations. Yes, while we do plan for type 2 variations, the response time, as indicated by my colleague in the chat, could take in excess of, around 2 years to get back. So just to note that we do plan, but the timelines are very extended. Second point is with regards to the implementation of new guidelines. It's I've noticed that of recent, especially with the changing to the IT systems at the moment, we're getting guidelines published and implemented on the same day, which makes it difficult for us because we basically preparing submissions to the regulator, and we have to change formats, add new documents on the fly when we submit it tomorrow, but we got a new guideline today. So just to note that, please, if there could be a separation between publication of guidelines and implementation of guidelines. Thank you.
Okay. Gabriel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just getting back to Nicola's question about the ECDD implementation and Christiana's answer. It's just that we are a global company, so we've got to go back and get documentation from above site. So we've got our internal process in place. We've got the e-submission documents ready, but sometimes we have to confer back because it's a global company, and our documents are sometimes shared between other countries as well. So we have to go back and wait for the document to come. So an extended timeline for the submission of the ECDD conversion, because we have to convert from ECD, and we have also older products like Ventolin, and they are very old. They were registered before 2000, so you still have some of them in some formats in MBR formats. So there's still conversion required. So therefore, I think we've got a roadmap how we want to submit our products, and it's a lot of products, and we've got a roadmap in terms of criticality for HAQs, for supply critical, and to make the medicines available. So I think I don't know if there's an exception to the extended guidelines, or can we have some clarity about it? Thank you.
Okay, and Kuvashni. Kuvashni, they're muted still, Togoza.
They can unmute. Mics are enabled for
Okay.
those that raise their hands.
She says she's unable to unmute. Let's just see if we can sort out that technical glitch. We'll take Simone and then come back to Kuvashni, then we're going to respond to these.
Thank you, Dr. Sameti, and thank you for a very informative presentation. My question is around local manufacturing developments in South Africa, especially with small business. And so my question is around the ECTD format, which is a software that needs to be purchased at a very high cost. Is SAHPRA going to be providing the ECT software in regards to small business so that there's accessibility for product registration? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's try Kuvashni again. Okay, let's respond to those questions. Yeah. Okay, you'll post them. Okay, great. We'll look at them just now. Colleagues, please go ahead and respond. I'm assuming Portia, Kristalna.
Thanks. No, Chair, I'll take the first question on the priority review.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarity, was the first part of the question, what is the timeline for the review of the requests for the priority review? We meet every month, so every 4 weeks as a committee to review all motivations received for both variations and new medicines for priority review. Don't know if that answers your question.
Maybe I can add, Chair. I'm trying to raise my hand just to add to what Pratibha has said with regards to the process, that once the applicant has received a response, let's say it's a negative response, they need to a negative outcome. The applicant are free to respond to that, a recommendation or outcome. And at that stage, it's not regarded as an appeal. It's still more like the evaluation process of the priority review request. So that we just made it clear. The appeal can only come after once the applicant has responded to the outcome, and we would have issued another negative outcome. And that's the stage when the applicant can now write go to the next step. That is the Section 24 appeal and writing to the CEO. Just wanted to clarify further the process, Chair. Thank you.
Right, Chair. So I think from my side, just I think the question around the document matrix and validation. So the current document matrix, which is then effective 1 October, I assume that the acknowledgement from the team around fixing the typo on the document matrix will be addressed before the 1st of October. And as indicated, so once we have this in place as of 1 October, if anything changes on the document matrix, the validation rule corresponding will also be updated. So I think from that perspective, I would assume if there is perhaps a scenario where we again have a challenge, or there may be another typo, if something new gets introduced or we have future changes, I think as with I suppose anything, if that could then be communicated to SAHPRA so that the colleagues may then also rapidly address that, and align in any other typo issues that might occur in the future, so that we can reprocess any failed application due to a validation that picked up an incorrect reference on the document matrix. But we are able to reprocess those if we pick up that there are issues. But yeah, I think it's important then just the timeline for what we've got on the website, effective 1 October. And maybe to that point, Offensia, that's probably why it would be a good idea just keep in a loop once you pull the trigger on your submission so we could step it through. But yeah, as I said, we have the capability to reprocess something if there is a particular problem that occurs. Then I think the other comment just around guidelines published and then implemented on the same day. Chair, I'm not fully aware of scenarios where that plays out. I think I don't know, I can't talk to all of the guidelines across whole of the organization. But certainly I think the ones from the ICT side, we've published in March, we've got our timelines for October in mind. As I said, we've got some small refinements that we're doing based on some good input and constructive feedback that we've received. And yeah, I'm not, yeah. I don't really have enough information to actually provide some good feedback on that one. But it is something that we note. Then in terms of extended timelines for converting to ECTD, so again, I think the question for me, it's perhaps maybe too broad to properly address and answer. But I mean, the expectation is if there is a variation that is being submitted at the moment, that it comes through as an ECTD submission along with its baseline. So again, to maybe Silverani's point, so when you plan for those variations to come through, maybe then just align the planning with what is currently possible from your side in terms of getting those applications, the baseline as well as the variation then ready in an ECTD format. If it is a response to a variation where there was an issue with your variation, again, not sure what the extension timeline is that you have in mind, because I also don't want to say yes, let's just have this very large open-ended extended timeline, because that is also not going to work. So I think it is something that one can assess on a case-by-case basis. But I mean, we also have to be very clear with each other in terms of how long is a piece of string. So we've also been at it since March, and I'm hoping over the last 5-6 months that some good progress has been made in terms of starting the processes of conversions and getting the right mechanisms triggered and in place to get your dossiers then into the ECTD compliant formats. So yeah, I think if there are at this stage still issues with responses where you are waiting for further documents before you can complete the conversion, I think those would need to then be assessed on a case-by-case basis so that we can understand what the exact constraint is and exactly what time we are looking at. because it's not just a blanket space that we are going to keep writing things into. As for the ECTD tool, which is currently used for compiling and submitting orthodox and biological medicines applications, so for global or local companies that currently engage with SAHPRA, this is the format, and I think has been the format since it's been communicated since 2019. There are different kinds of tools available. Some of them are global software tools. Some of them are local software tools. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think for the local tool that I'm aware of, gosh, I don't know. I think it's like something like 10 or 14,000 rand, like software subscription a year. But I'm not exactly sure. I don't know how expensive some of the other options are. But this is kind of like the cost I believe companies would look at. But again, as I said, that is the current format. So even if you submit to SAHPRA with the intention as a local manufacturer to submit anywhere else, that would then be kind of like the formats that these applications come in. We have got within the continent also now a project with the African Medicines Agency to pilot ECTD applications across the continent. So this is a format that from other regulatory agencies side, colleagues are also now rapidly starting to move towards. So I think probably also for companies, something really good that they should keep in mind as they do their planning for the future. But it is not something that SAHPRA would be providing industry with. All of the applicants that intend to operate in this environment would need to ensure that they have the right tools to then prepare their submissions and submit them to SAHPRA in a compliant format. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I see we have run out of time, so I'm going to ask that we end here, colleagues, as I know a few of people need to join other meetings. So thank you very much. I mean, obviously, on some of these matters, there's still quite a bit of engagement that's required, and that's why we have the working groups, so that you can have very specific and dedicated discussions on these matters. So I would recommend that you make sure that these items, even though you don't necessarily attend the working groups, that you are represented in terms of the input that you would have on some of these matters. So with that said, I'm going to ask that we close the meeting. And thank you all for attending. I trust that this was helpful. And as I always say, there's areas where we will agree, there's areas where we will not agree. We always try our best to meet each other halfway. And I think certainly there are opportunities for that, and engage on that, please, at the working group levels. I don't know if Christelna and Portia have got any last comments to make.
Chair, I think maybe then just from our side, so I mean, I think we will work with Pertiba so that we can just do the updates on the FAQ, or republish the FAQ, or just reshare a link with colleagues on the FAQ as it lines up with the ECTD. And then just to confirm that e-submission guideline will then be available by the end of the week. And we will continue to encourage all of the colleagues to please join the webinars that Pertiba and the Vector team is running for us, to socialize the 3.1 specification, and also give an opportunity to ask questions if further clarity is required. These have been very helpful, and I think we will continue to run them as more and more questions get raised. It gives us new topics to tackle in future webinars, so we will continue to run them as long as industry feels they are helpful and they continue to attend. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Portia?
Yes, thank you, Chair. From our end, I would like to thank the industry members that responded to the ICH questionnaire, and we'll encourage, other industry members when we have this kind of survey that they could also raise their hands and also participate, and that is helping us in order to close the gaps where we see, the adherence and also what will be the cause of, industry not being able to adhere to those, guidelines. And just to also add, Chair, that we will be having a webinar where we workshopping the Reliance guideline. I saw it came across in the chat, a few times where colleagues were asking or industry members were asking about this. And this has been in our pipeline that we would do Reliance a workshop following your post publication. And Chair, with that, I would like to thank industry, members for the good working, collaboration with the regulator, especially also at working groups. Thank you.
Sorry, I muted. Thank you so much, Portia and Christina, for those comments. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Again, your input and your questions are certainly appreciated. Do have a good day further. We finished just on time. Perfect. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.